Hi there, my name is Olivia and I am a rare breed of fashion designer because I like doing technical work. Some people like spreadsheets, I like this. So much so that I even wrote a tech pack guide. It's one of the free resources on my website along with editable templates. But I know technical design looks kind of intimidating at a first glance. So I'm putting this video up as an intro to see if I can make it more engaging. I've never been exclusively a tech pack designer because I never worked in brands big enough that they have separate teams for each step, and so there's someone dedicated to just filling in extremely technical sheets like this one. And if you're here, I'm guessing you're also not at a place where you need a document like this. So I'm going to show you how to create a tech pack that can work as a design document, and it's something that is first and foremost for you, and that will help you flesh out your idea, and later it will help you get the manufacturer on the same page as you. You know, the tech pack is there for you to have a conversation with the other parties involved, so you can discuss possibilities or constraints, lead times, costs, etc. And lastly, this will sort of be a guarantee if things go wrong and you need to make adjustments. And actually, that's the best case scenario because making adjustments is pretty common. And worst case scenario, the tech pack will be there so you can make some negotiations in case like everything goes to shit and you decide that you absolutely cannot work with this manufacturer anymore. So yeah, I think that's a more productive mindset than just seeing the tech pack as this annoying thing that you need to have, otherwise the apparel manufacturer won't even work with you. All right, now let's get to some examples. This is something that I made for a streetwear label, and there are no technical drawings. That's what we call flat sketches, because it was just easier to take a picture of this piece that they sourced, and I went on Photoshop to edit the picture with all the details that they wanted to add or to change. And I also added a lot of notes for the sampling team at the factory so they could understand all these changes. It's important not to assume that the picture will explain everything that they need to know. And there are extra pages to explain some other details, and separate pages to explain the different colorways. And the measurements page is quite simple. They were sending this for the factory. One thing that was really important for this one is that the owners of this label could understand very easily what's going on here and tell me if anything had to be changed. This one is for a different streetwear label. It's still a draft. If you can see, like, I have some notes asking to confirm the fabric and sample size. This was going to be made from scratch, so the measurements have a little bit more detail, and I actually created two separate pages for the measurements and also created separate pages for all the little details that were going in this jacket. I'm not gonna show everything though. This one was for an up-and-coming designer in London. You see that it is quite different, like the amount of, not the amount of information, but there's different information that I had to include because she made this piece in-house and did the showroom, and this tech pack was to send to a manufacturer after she had received orders in the showroom. But she had already made all the patterns, sourced all the fabrics and the trimmings, and I have to blur a lot of things because her pieces are quite unique. I don't want to give away any of her methods. And for this designer, a very important part of my work was to have like a library of finishing techniques, all the details on her pieces, so that I could include in the tech packs along with some extra notes. Finally, these are the tech packs that I made for my first drop. It's actually quite basic because I was having my production done by the textile printers. They had like a couple seamstresses in-house to make very small orders. And I don't have a lot of information because with them I had to send this type of documents that was each one of the pattern piece and the print placement. So the way that I worked with them was slightly different. So yeah, tech packs are not something like set in stone. Ooh, that was a lot. But if you're still with me, a few considerations. What if the factory insists that you need to have a tech pack like this before you even start anything? From my experience, that's a huge red flag. Let me tell you the quick version of why I have a tech pack from the Gap. I got contacted by someone who had already sent a big deposits to a factory in China. They sent tech packs made by a graphic designer with very complex prints with a lot of colors, but the garments were simple. It was a t-shirt and a jumper. Samples came and looked questionable to say the least, and the clients couldn't get on the same page with the representative in China, even though they were constantly in touch over WeChat, Skype, WhatsApp, you name it. Once I started working with this client, the representative in China rejected every tech pack that I sent. Whatever I did, no matter how I tried to explain the client's vision, the representative found a way to denigrate my work as not technical enough. And that's when he finally shared this beast of a tech pack. So, why did I say this was a red flag? There are several red flags actually. What was this representative actual relationship with the factory producing for the Gap and the factory making the bad samples? Were they the same factory? You know, if you're outsourcing your sampling, production, and whatnot to a factory all the way in China, those factories are also outsourcing. Apparel manufacturers can work with fabric mills, dyers, printers, even entire other apparel manufacturers. So who's to say that the same team, equipment, and facilities making orders for the Gap or other brands that these factories advertise on their Alibaba profile are the same like team, equipment, and facilities making 150 t-shirts for you? Also, how come they asked for such a big deposit up front? What my client sent was not a sampling deposit. The factory had asked for a big down payment for a mass production that ended up never happening. So be careful with bank transfers abroad, and if you ever hear the words Western Union, run. And lastly, if a rep starts to find too much problem with your tech pack or your communication after you sent the money, things are backwards here. This is business. Good factories know how to turn down prospective clients who don't meet their requirements. Another thing I want to add before we move on to the next part is what if this is just super boring and you just can't get interested in any of this that I'm talking about? You just want to get this thing done with so you can place your order ASAP. Well, then you should consider hiring a designer to do it for you. There are lots of people on Fiverr who will do the work for a $5 or $15. There is me who will start at $350, And I think most tech pack designers start at 1,000 plus. But I will say, if you are genuinely not super interested in any of this, or you're not interested in design, apparel, textiles, and you want to start a clothing line, consider this kind of a yellow warning light for you. You know, you can just do merch instead. Don't work against yourself. And on this note, you can also check out my review of 2 factories producing high quality streetwear blanks here in Portugal. But if you are interested in this process, let's move on. And another thing I want you to think about getting to the actual tech pack is research and design development, because tech packs are kind of a final step. First comes research, so you can have a library of possibilities and you can take charge of all the details in your design. And then design development is the step where you can come up with multiple variations before you start sampling. This is more effective than just like wondering or thinking out loud, and it's to kind of safeguard yourself against changing your minds at a critical time. You don't need to be good at drawing, you just need to find a way to put your ideas onto paper. You can, for example, use a template of garments, you can draw over a picture, find close-ups of details on luxury online shops, use a template of a model. And does this cover everything about the development process? No. That really depends on what you want to make. So if you want to do prints, you can apply the same tips to figure out like printing techniques, colors, proportions. And remember, keep your ideas cataloged, because at this stage, you don't need to commit to the first idea that comes to your head. And you also don't need to toss out any ideas. That's why you're using templates, because if something is bad, or if you start drawing but you don't know how to resolve a design, then leave it aside, start another one. So yeah, that's it. Hope this will make tech packs less of a drag for you. And before I end this video, one more word of caution. What happens if you do change your mind multiple times, multiple stages? Well, you're not the only one. Big brands are always changing their minds and canceling orders last minute because, you know, trends have changed, plans have shifted, production wasn't fast enough, but their losses end up getting passed on to the lowest denominators, which are unfortunately the seamstresses in dingy ass sweatshops. In your case, as a small business, sure, you can change your mind at any point, but what's most likely to happen is that factories will delay your order at any point to fulfill those big orders from big brands as fast as humanly possible, so they can cover their asses and prevent being screwed over by them. Big brands have a lot more leverage than you, and probably ironclad contracts. And yeah, maybe I went on a tangent here and was a bit of a buzzkill, but I say all this because I want to encourage you to work more mindfully and really, like, you know, put your heart onto it, plan ahead, design more carefully, and not change stuff on a whim, because that ends up perpetuating really unethical practices in the fashion industry. If you feel like you need to have more control over your design process, one thing you can do is to make the prototypes on your end and approach manufacturers when you are on your way to mass production. There are multiple ways you can do this. The simplest is to source a piece that's very similar to the design you want, and you send it to the factory so they can copy it. And you can even customize this piece first before you send it, so it's more like your design. Or you can make the prototype with a fashion designer or seamstress, pattern or sample maker. And this way you're only sampling with a factory, so you can check their quality before approving mass production. And this is how most up-and-coming designers work. They make their pieces in-house and show them on the runway or in showrooms, and then move on to manufacturing once they get orders. This part I won't cover, but if you're curious about making clothes, if you want to get more hands-on, you can check all my other tutorials. So that's it. Hope that was helpful, and I'll see you next time. Bye!